Okay, fab. Right, first question. What was your first reaction to the script?
I was very intrigued when I first read the screenplay because you have a brilliant basis for drama, a dynamic of three people who are brought together in their youth and they're bound by love and torn apart by prejudice. And when they're young, all three of them are certainly victims of their time. And the things that they do with and to one another mean that their future is indelibly marked. And then for one character to be a catalyst to bring people back together again in their older years is a really, really good, potent basis for drama. So I thought, well, that is great. I'm very interested in that dynamic. And then I was also very interested in Marion as a character because she has, like a lot of us, a massive amount of complexities when we're faced with adversity or difficult decisions. And she has a huge amount of empathy and courage and, I suppose, a steadfast strength, which is easy to overlook and not value, particularly when it's consistent as it is with her. And so there were lots of elements. There's a sort of element of Marion, which I think is fascinating, and I think it can resonate with a lot of women, perhaps particularly women of this generation, who are able to function and have really a sort of core of self-sacrifice. And I think sometimes there comes a point, perhaps particularly as times change and you're allowed to develop and learn, that brings about necessary and interesting change within the individual. And that's certainly something with Marion.
Yeah, agreed. And what was it like working with acclaimed director Michael Grandage?
It was really brilliant to work with Michael Grandage again. I've had a fantastic fortune to work with him in the theatre a few times, and I've always valued working with him because he teaches me a lot, and I find his advice always exceptionally useful and valuable. Michael used to be an actor, and so he's got a really good way of being able to understand the process that actors go through. But then, of course, he's worked as a director and he's worked as a producer. So he has a fantastic foundation in order to start any project. And so I was very, very interested to work with him again.
And did you collaborate with your younger counterparts at all when figuring out certain mannerisms for your respective characters?
Emma Corrin, who plays Marion when she's younger, and I didn't meet because we were shooting in 2021 and there were COVID safety protocols in place, naturally. And so we only talked on the telephone, and we also had a collective Zoom meeting. And I was very fortunate because Emma, Harry and David, they shot their scenes first. And so I could look at, I think I had 3, maybe 4 of Emma's scenes to look at. And so I used that as reference and also relied on Michael if I needed to have a conversation to be a conduit. And we had a really brilliant team. For example, Annie, our costume designer, was really good about talking about elements of the design when Emma's character, as in young Marion, was young, and how much of those themes are brought through, which she actually did in a very subtle way. Same with the makeup design. So all of those details kind of go into the pot and brew for a little while. So it was all good resource material.
Mm-hmm. And what did you enjoy most about working together and this experience?
I really, really enjoyed working with Rupert and with Linus. The majority of my scenes, I guess, are with Rupert. And so I was looking forward to it enormously because I've admired him for years. You know, he's obviously an exceptional actor. I really, really loved his debut as a director. I thought it was fantastic. And he, you know, his books are really entertaining and interesting and quite moving. And so this is a person who has this amazing intelligence, this vibrant experience, and this amazing talent. And so that those elements were great. And I think getting older brings about lovely attitudes. And it's always interesting to work with people when they're older. I think you get a lot from it. And Linus is a good soul. He's got a generous quality and a real ability to listen and to give and care. He cares a great deal. And I was really lucky to be in their company.
And final question, what do you hope audiences take away from this movie?
I don't know what audiences will take away, but what I guess might happen to them, which is something that happened to me when I was reading it and then researching, is that I was reminded of not, you know, his fairly recent history in the UK, of what has happened in the UK in terms of legislation to basically answer prejudice, legislation to help people in the gay community have equality, and how painfully slow that is, how delicate that is, and how much more work we've got to do yet. That was one of the very strong elements I felt. And also something that I knew academically. It's like, we all know this, but it's when you feel it that perhaps you really start to do something about it. To have enough of your history and enough of your future to make that history count. In other words, if there are things in your past that you feel like you've got to resolve or change or address, have courage to explore that. And that's something that I felt very strongly.
Amazing. I think that's all the questions for the generic now. So